Salam, əziz aviz sevərlər. Hamınızı bugünkü webinarımızda xoş gördük. Bir daha məlumat vermək istərdik ki, bilirsiniz ki, bizim bu ay, oktyabr ayı Azərbaycan Qadınları Elmdə Təşkilatının hər il keçirtdiyi oktyabrda Azərbaycan qadınlarına həsr olunmuş forumu daxilindədir bugünkü tədbirimizdə. Və artıq bizim təşkilat tərəfindən təşkil edilən Azərbaycan Qadınları Elmdə 3 forumunun dördüncü və son həftəsinin mövzusuna gəlib çatdıq. Qadınlar Sahibkarlıqda və Startapda. Və bugün sizin qarşınızda Wonderkind şirketində Biznes İnkişaf Meneceri və SheNFT Metasouls şirketinin həmtəsisçisi Səbinə Novruzova olacaqdır və o öz startup və kariyer yolunda olan təcrübəsini bugün sizlərlə paylaşacaqdır. Qeyd etmək istəyirəm ki, prezentasiya ingilis dilində olacaq, ancaq siz suallarınızı həm ingilis, həm də Azərbaycan dilində chat hissədə yaza bilərsiniz. Təlim boyu da siz chat hissədə suallarını yaza bilərsiniz. Biz tədbirin sonunda sualları səsləndirəcəyik və yaxud da ki, tədbirin sonunda mikrofonu açmaqla da siz Səbinə xanıma suallarınızı verə bilərsiniz. İndi isə hər birinizi webinardan həzz almağa dəvət edirəm. Buyurun Səbinə xanım, sözü sizə verirəm.
Thank you, and thank you everyone in advance. I hope that English works for everyone. Even if not, after I will send the same version of my presentation in Azerbaijani, and I still hope that you can get some of the learning, even if the language is not the best, but I thank you in advance for your patience. So let me start sharing the screen. So the topic is from idea to startup, and I wanted to go beyond just explaining you what a startup is, because anyone can Google that. I wanted to focus on my personal experience, tips and tricks, considering that we are in Azerbaijan or we are in this part of the world and we are not in Silicon Valley, and a lot of principles that work there don't work here. So I think this could be a very useful experience share for us women. So let's look at the agenda. First of all, I'm going to share why would you listen to me and what have I done in terms of startups here in Azerbaijan and beyond. And then I will proceed with what a startup is, what is the difference between a startup and a business and a small business. And all right, here you have an idea, what are the first steps to take and how to not make common first step mistakes. We will talk about what it means to have a competition and market analysis. What is MVP? That's a very unique word. What is this minimum viable product? And then we will move over to thinking about, okay, where do I take the money for my startup, for my idea? For that, we will review the local Azerbaijani and global ecosystem of startup and startup programs. And I will finish off with my personal key tips and tricks, secrets, if you say so, and just some of my recommendations. And at the end, of course, you can ask any questions. And as mentioned, you can ask questions in any language in the chat, but I will try to reply to as many as I can. If you have an idea, by the way, you can also share that idea and I can give you some tips on how to develop it. So why me? My name is Sabina. I'm originally from Baku. I lived in Istanbul for a few years before moving to Amsterdam, Netherlands this January. And so here I work full-time in sales and business development at Dutch Scale Up. And Scale Up, it is something between startup and a company. I'm also a founder of Metasouls Startup, which is a membership for women who want to learn more about Web3. That's a very tech topic, but the thing is that we are organizing SheNFT, which is the NFT exhibition, digital art exhibition, and the theme is women empowerment. So I really try to be a good women in tech advocate, because I remember how hard it was for me as a woman in Azerbaijan. As you can tell, I'm not perfect with Azerbaijani language, but I still managed to get quite a lot out of Azerbaijani programs. And I think that that's why I have the experience to share. I'm also doing some speaking, as for example, on the picture you can see at TEDx Amsterdam Women Talent Night. I shared also why we need more women in technology. So you can tell that I'm really passionate about this topic. My first startup was a mobile app, and I launched it in 2017. I went through multiple accelerators at Baxel App Lab, at Skolkovo, which is the Russian biggest startup accelerator, at Founder Institute, which is a Silicon Valley-based accelerator. And I received many different grants and sponsorships from ICT Fund of Azerbaijan, from Pasha Holding as well. So I will also share little tips about that. So let's move on to what a startup is in a very, very simple words. So startup, that's almost always an experiment, because the main point is to introduce something completely new. It doesn't have to be a product that is new. It can also be a business model. So, you know, a few decades of years ago, membership. So the model that you can pay €5 every month instead of 100 euros upfront, that was a new model, and nobody knew if it's going to work or not. And it worked, as you know. So a startup is always an experiment. And the main goal of founder, of entrepreneur, is to try and test this product multiple times, make little changes, test again, but testing is the main core option. Second of all, it is innovative. As I mentioned, it doesn't need to be something like you invent electricity or something, no, but still it needs to be something relatively new. And that's why in majority of cases, when we speak about startups, it's relative to tech environment, because in tech, you have a wide reach, you can scale very fast with technology, with digital products, because you don't have to physically build them. And of course, we all know that there's a lot of money in tech, so there is fast funding. And last but not least, it is almost always risky. Even if your startup idea is to take a product that works in Netherlands and bring it to Azerbaijan, it is still risky because you never know how the public will react. So experiment, innovative, risky. And I wanted to point out one of the very often used words, unicorn. You will hear unicorn startups. You have heard that a million times. That is a startup that is valued at over $1 billion. I'm not exactly sure if we have Azerbaijani unicorns, but I'm sure that with the new generation of women also joining this, we will have quite a lot. So the very key question is, what is the difference between a startup and a small business? So for example, when I started working at 17, what I did graphic design as a freelance. So I think I remember still getting like 50 AZN for a logo that I drew, and I was extremely happy for that. And then me and my friends, we decided, okay, let's do it together. So I did graphic design, someone else did video, someone else did website building. But that was not a startup. Why? Because first of all, it is not really innovative. We all know that digital services exist. Second of all, we didn't have resources, and we didn't even need resources to grow super fast. We could, okay, take a few orders per month, and that was okay for us. Three, well, it was not risky. I mean, we didn't really invest money in it. We could do it if we wanted to stop. We could just, you know, stop, no big money involved. And last, it is not really scalable. So, okay, there are 3 people in the team. There can be 300 people in the team, but that will not change how fast we actually work, because you still need time to, for example, build a logo or something. But a startup, that is different. The goal of a startup is to grow quickly, is to test very fast all the different business models and to grow as fast as possible. Also, a startup is not a startup forever. For example, you know that Instagram 10 years ago, it was a startup. Nobody had an app where you could share photos. So that was something new, and they grew very quickly. Right now, it's a company. Hundreds of people work there. It's not a startup anymore. And a small business can only, okay, it can grow into regular business, but that's it. The second option for startup is, of course, if a bigger company buys you, that is also very nice. I think there is also a very famous Azerbaijani guy who used to work at Twitter, and he developed a solution that Twitter bought. One of the best also options if you kind of need money rather than, trying to prove something with your product. Very lovely option. And of course, the third is to go public with IPO, to go public. That doesn't really matter. And of course, any startup is risky because you are testing something new. It's not just about, okay, let me draw some logos for some money in exchange. It is testing something completely new. So for startups, think Airbnb, Uber, because Uber, nobody really had an app for taxis like that. It was completely innovative. Instagram, Twitter, a lot of companies like that. Startups and small business could be a beauty salon, could be card games, could be digital services agencies, all sorts of agencies, marketing agency. So I think you know the difference now. All right. Now, let's think about the most exciting part. So I'm sure that a lot of you, I'm sure every one of you is very talented and you have ideas all the time. So what do we do when you have an idea? So I put together 4 options, and based on my experience, these are the options that people want to go for first. Option A is to start looking for investors, start looking for money to make your project come to life. Step B is research and analyze the market for your product. C is to, okay, I have a brilliant idea. I have to now quit my job and dedicate all time to building on my idea. And option D is to start investing money in hiring the team, or even start investing money in marketing and, all of that stuff. Perhaps I even want you to put some options. So if you can just put in the chat A, B, C, or D. It will just be interesting for me to know what do you think is the top best thing to do when you have an idea. I'll just give you like a couple of seconds to do this, but I think it is, okay, nice. Very close, very close. So the best first thing to do is to start with the research, but I completely see the point of start looking for investment as well. And I will talk about how to get money in later slides. But the very first thing is the need to analyze the market. Why it's not start looking for investors? Because investors, at least now, they do not invest in idea. No, you have to have a product, a mock-up, a version, even if it's a very weak version. You have to have something before you pitch to investors. Option C, never do that, because I know that a lot of founders can say, yes, I quit my job and I work 24/7 on my idea. All right, maybe that can work in 1 out of 10 cases, but you never want to quit job or quit studies if you do not have this financial freedom. So I know we all know Mark Zuckerberg quit, his university, and he built Facebook and he became a billionaire. That's 1% of cases. So let's not do that before we actually have the security. And option D is simply, we don't need to spend money on things that are not important. The testing part you can do by yourself, or you can do with people who are willing to work for free, who are willing to become co-founders. You don't need to hire at this point. So what are the best first steps to take? So there are 3 of them, and let me explore each one of them in details. Number 1 is to explore the competition. So for example, if you have, that works even for small business, not even for a startup. So if you have an idea of an app, for example, that can deliver, I'm not sure, beauty products to your door, you have to look for competition inside of your country. In Azerbaijan, you have to look of what are people in other countries doing, what are American startups doing. So you have to see what the model is. And at first, for example, when you start searching for something and you see that there are a lot of similar products, that is actually a good sign. So that is a number 1. Like, I'm starting to share some secrets. The first secret that I know that investors really dislike the phrase, our product is so cool because we have no competition. The only thing that that means is that there is no demand. People don't want this product. That's why it has not been invented. Like, you have to admit to the fact that there are 7 billion people on the planet, and someone else might have had the similar idea. Maybe they tested it and they saw that it works. Great. If you see someone in US doing the same thing that you do, don't let it stop you. You can still innovate your idea. You can still change your idea. You can still say, okay, I don't need America. I'm focusing on Asia and Europe, and you will be okay. But that is the thing that you need to do, a proper competition analysis. And also think about the fact that your competition doesn't need to be direct. So if you're doing, for example, a food delivery app, it's not just food delivery apps that are your competition. It's also just regular restaurants. It's also just, services that deliver ingredients for you to cook from them. So it's everything that is related to food and how people consume food. So think a little bit outside of the box. But usually when you start looking for a competition, you feel inspired because you see, okay, some people are doing this in America and it works for them. Well, let's see if it works here in Azerbaijan, or here in Netherlands, or here in Turkey. And that's when step number 2 comes in place. You really, really, really need to understand who are your target customers, who will be using your product. You have to think about it. You have to put yourself in their shoes. If you have friends who, or even people who you know, who are perfect customer, ask their opinion, share idea. Don't be afraid to share idea. I know also that in our part of the world, we think that if we share something, people will steal it. That's not true. I have pitched the app, I think, thousands of times. Nobody really stole it. Yeah, there are some similar ideas, but idea without execution is nothing. So don't be afraid. Better ask questions, ask friends that can look like your potential customers. So we have to understand if there is a fit between your product and the market. So you have an idea of an app. Okay, how many people in Azerbaijan are used to using apps? Now, a lot of people. Okay, people here have already used, for example, Wolt and other food delivery services. So they are used to this concept. So if I introduce another food delivery app, they already can use it. So now it's important for me to focus on marketing. That's sort of the thought process that you gotta have. And of course, consider that unless you are targeting America, if you're building a global startup, think about people here. That is another mistake that I made personally when we started pitching our app. And by the way, Run to Help app, it was the app that would convert your steps to money for charity. So for 10 kilometers, for example, you have 1 AZN and you can donate 1 AZN to any fund, charity fund. So, and we pitched it around 5 years ago. And that was really an unusual concept for Azerbaijan. A healthy lifestyle wasn't even a trend as it is now. And that was the mistake that we had. We tried to launch it in Azerbaijan and we had to convince people that it will work. And the best thing that we could do is just target another market, even Turkey, because in Turkey at that time, it was more trendy to have healthy lifestyle. For example, now this app would really work in Azerbaijan because people are used to this walking and running. I see running people here all the time. So, you have to think about the market where you launch. These are 2 very important points. And here, what you need to do is mainly research, analyze, Google, talk to people. But the 3rd point, that is the action. And that is the interesting part. That is the creative part. You have to create the very, very basic version of your product. So the minimum viable product, that is a concept from a lean startup. This book, highly recommend. So take a screenshot. This is one of the best of the best books. It's really easy to read. And it talks about how to quickly test a startup. Because the worst thing you can do is to have an idea, invest, I don't know, 30,000 AZN in it, only to realize that it's not going to work because you made one mistake or another mistake or didn't think about audience. Instead, you can build a very basic product For example, instead of an app, you can build Telegram bot, or you can build web version, because websites are cheaper than I already took. Thank you. That's amazing. I will have recommendations as well at the end. Websites are much cheaper than applications. Build a website, and you can have a lot of constructor websites online that let you create website for free by yourself. So don't invest money in branding. Don't hire a graphic designer. Go to Canva, make it yourself. It will be a little bit simple. It's okay. But the point is to test the product. So for example, if there is a product as mobile app for signing up for nails appointment, for example, instead of this, you could first maybe try Telegram bot, something like that, free to build. And then if you see that people like this concept, that they like not talking over the phone and not writing in your Instagram DM, then you can say, okay, I tested, it worked, so now I'm going to build an app. So that is sort of, in a very rough description, what MVP is. So the key factor here is to move quickly, and the book talks about what exactly quickly is. It could be, okay, let's build a product in 3 months, let's build a very simple website in 3 months, and then let's test it for 2 months, 1 month for analysis, and then test for 2 months, 1 month for analysis. So that is the approach that I think is a key difference between a small business and a startup. For example, for a restaurant, it's hard to do this because people, when they go to restaurants, they want nice looking environment, they want quality food. You cannot really do that. In small business, you kind of have to invest money up front. But in startup, especially if that's a tech startup, you have some flexibility. So MVP, the most important thing. And the most interesting thing is to think, okay, what could be an MVP of our product? For example, our app, let's go back to it. I will use it as an example. It was an app that could track your steps. We could make a web version out of it, and it will be much cheaper than building an application. That's the one thing. Second thing, we could also make a Telegram bot where people could send screenshots of their health or Google Health app. We can see it's 10 kilometers. We can text them, okay, you have 1 AZN for charity. Very simple, just to test if people are going to like it. So that's the core. Now, here I want to have a little break, and I'm not sure if we have a lot of students here or if we have a lot of people who already work, but still I want to cover what to do if you are studying or if you are working, because I said that it's a mistake to quit upfront. And I stand by these words. So if you are a student, for example, I was a student, I was studying at third year at ADA University. I was studying economics, very different from what I'm doing right now, but it was still very lovely. But I had to balance university and I had to balance building a startup. Now here, one thing you can do, you have this amazing network. Most probably you also have mailing list of students at your university, or you can at least just approach any classroom and ask questions. So when you are starting to do market research, you always need feedback from your potential customers. And here you just have this free network. People who work, they don't have this. You have this, so use it. Also, there are millions of grants, startup programs, scholarships, startup scholarships, specifically for students. Make use of it. Make your age one of your winning points. It's okay. I know that in our country, is this part of the world in general, and because we are women, sometimes we tend to be quiet. And that is not really good in a startup environment. So I just want to tell you that it's okay. And I can see that situation is changing also here in our part of the world, post-Soviet countries, that women start to speak up. And I really want to say that, yes, please continue doing this. If you are 17 and you're a founder, that's amazing. Everywhere on all of your social media, put 17-year-old founder. Everyone loves this. Everyone in West loves this. European investors would love to invest in something like that because it looks cool. It's one of your winning points. And, you know, there are so many founders and you really, really, really need a way to separate yourself from them. So if you are 40, for example, amazing, put it there, because there's a stereotype that only people from 20 to 35 can build something, but that's not true. If you're 40, if you're 50, that is another winning point that you can use. And that is amazing to use, really. A third thing, if you're a student like I was, you will get a lot of feedback, and that's okay. Ask for the feedback because you're young, you need that feedback from older people who you respect, but still have your own head. Just take it with a pinch of salt. Okay, it's feedback, you took it, but you are making the end decision. And number 4, make smart choices when it comes to university activities versus startup building. I have failed one of my classes at university because I would dedicate myself completely to building something. And I cannot say I regret it very much, but it would be nice not to fail it, right? Like, of course, I took it again, and then I had like a B or even A-, but I didn't need that. I just had to have a proper time management. So be mindful of this. University is also important. Mark Zuckerberg, that's 1 out of 20 cases. 20, even 1 out of 200 cases. So don't think that he's the icon. Also, he's a man, and it's different, okay? So it's different for us. Now, if you work, I would also recommend you to not quit unless you have financial stability. If you have this financial pillow, like if you can pay for yourself and you can pay for the startup, that is amazing. That is cool. Otherwise, as myself, you can start with a startup as a side hustle. You really have to learn to prioritize your time and task management. So if you're doing 2 things at once, it means that, okay, you cannot really be lazy at work. You cannot have the reason for your manager to doubt you. So just do your best. Always use your work background as one of your winning points. It's always nice. And be mindful of legal issues and work ethics. If you have a startup on the same topic that the company that you work at, think again, because I know that in a lot of contracts, it says that you cannot build a company that does the same things, or you have to wait for 2 years. Just be mindful of that. Now, a good question is, where do I take the money from? And nobody really answers that question. That's how I feel. So I really wanted to cover this part as well, because I'm proud to say that I don't think I have invested a lot of my personal money because I made use of all the possibilities and opportunities that there are. So option 1, and we have a new word here, bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means that you invest very, very little capital into proving your startup idea. For example, if you don't invest money by yourself, if you get grant or investment or anything else, or if you get investment from friends, fools, and family. That's another startup slang that you will see everywhere, FFF. It means people who are most likely to invest into your product. Family, like your parents, can give you money to invest. Friends can also, give you a bit of money to invest into the startup. And fools, it just means that investors who invest before they see the product. That's what I meant when I said that people don't really do that anymore. Now, number 2 are grants. So usually they are for smaller amount of money, but the good thing is that there are a lot of grants that are specifically for women. If you just Google female or like women startup grants, you will see hundreds of them. Yes, it can be $1,000 here, $5,000 there, but altogether it can sum up to a pretty nice amount. There are a lot of grants specifically for students, for women, for a certain industry, for example, startups in tech or startups in climate change or something like that. Also, a tip, explore government grants. I myself have received with my team a grant from ICT Fund of Azerbaijan. So I think they are annual. I'm pretty sure that our Ministry of Innovation also has annual, yearly, different grants, explore that. Option number 3, and I think we have all heard of Kickstarter. So it's a platform where you can post your idea, and if people like it and they think, okay, in the future I might use this product, they will put like $10, $20, $30 in. And when you get all the money, you just put a little tip for Kickstarter and you are free to use this money. Now, I'm not exactly sure if Kickstarter is available for Azerbaijan. I don't think so, but I kind of like and dislike this option. I like it because you can directly get feedback from customers. So if people love your product, that means that you have to build it. They will pay for it. They will use it. But I've also heard of a lot of stories where, for example, a Kickstarter would send the payment late, or if you put a goal of getting $10,000, but you only got $9,000, they will not pay this money to you. So there are a lot of pros and cons to that. I like the next option the most, accelerators and incubators. So as you saw in the beginning, I went through a lot of them because I love them. I think this is the best thing that you can do. These are the centers where you can get mentorship, space to work usually, and help with capital. So seed capital equal to first investment. Local ones, I know almost all of them. I like them. I think they're cool. I had a look at all of their programs. In the land, I saw their office spaces, very nice. And all of them provide different programs, different mentorship programs. Really cool. I think if you have an idea and if you already have done the competition analysis, the market analysis, and you thought what your MVP can be like, apply for one of these accelerators. So usually how it looks like, it's, for example, 3-month program. And during first weeks, you talk about building your product. Then you talk about marketing your product. Then you talk about legal issues. So they really guide you through the process. And in return, it depends. Sometimes they ask for a percentage of your company, and that is totally okay. Sometimes they ask for places on the board. Can be different, depends on every single incubator. And of course, I put some of my favorite top best of the best global incubator programs, Techstars, Y Combinator, and 500 Startups. Y Combinator, it is the dream. So once you have Y Combinator incubation sort of badge, that opens the door for you everywhere. But of course, I wouldn't recommend you to apply to one of these as your first accelerator or incubator, because they usually accept people who already have some product. Our local ones that I mentioned, they're really good. Check them out. And the last tip to get finance is, of course, investors. And I put it as a last because I think that you better explore all possible options to get money without any strings attached. What I mean, if an investor invests into your company, that's it. So you have to give him or her share of your company. You are forever responsible into always keeping them in touch and sharing, okay, like, please give us another month. We are going to make revenue this month. It is like a forever connection. So that's why my tip is to be mindful of which investors you work with. Of course, there are now a lot of communities for women investors. That is nice. You could explore that. But I would still think about it as the last option. So the good thing that I would definitely recommend to do is to look for grants, is to then apply for one of the acceleration programs, go through one of the programs. At the end, usually they have demo day. And demo day is when investors come and you pitch your product, and investors who are interested, they can continue the negotiation. That, I think, is a very nice way of doing things. Or if you have a lot of money, invest your own money. That is amazing. But I'm sharing for everyone who, like me, didn't really have my personal money to invest. So that's why I had to think outside of the box. Now, the key next steps after we have done competition, market analysis, we thought, okay, we will build a web version of our app. What do you do next? You have to build a team around you. So I know that a lot of you can think, okay, I can do it all by myself. Maybe you can, but I'm just sharing that some of the best teams have a balance of tech and non-tech founders. Also can be a little bit stereotypical coming from me as a woman in tech, but it often works well if you have also, for example, a lady who's a non-tech founder and a guy who's a tech founder. I think it works really well, this dynamic. That's what we had in our team, and I really liked how it worked. And the next key thing to do is invest time and effort in your pitch deck. A pitch deck is a 10-slide presentation that covers all aspects of your startup. It's a face of your startup. And you have to be able to go through this presentation and talk about your startup in 3-5 minutes with passion. You have to really sell this product. That is the thing that you have to invest time in, the most important one. I won at 3 or 4 startup pitch competitions just because I was speaking with passion and I really invested time in the slides. And there were some people, some teams who had incredible ideas, world-changing ideas. But because it was put on a slide with blue background, yellow text, with the different fonts, and they couldn't really speak loud and clear, doesn't matter what language it is, the jury, the investors, they just didn't see anything special in it, but the idea was amazing. So that's why I really, really want to focus that invest time in your pitch deck. Go to Canva. Here it is. Canva has amazing presentation templates. This template that I have this presentation on, it's from Canva, because why would I invest a lot of time and effort into doing something by myself when there are a lot of free options, right? And there are a lot of examples of startup pitch deck that you can find online. Airbnb or Uber can be a good starting point, as always. On the next slide, I will show you the business model canvas. So it's sort of the table that has all the questions that you need to have in your pitch deck and that you need to answer to for yourself. Trello is just a really cool tool for task management, also free. And LinkedIn is the most important platform for founders, entrepreneurs, especially if your product goes beyond Azerbaijan. But to be honest, a lot of Azerbaijani people also start using LinkedIn, and I really like that. So another screenshot alert. Well, of course, you will have the recording, but you can also screenshot just right now. So this is the business model canvas. So it doesn't matter if you do it in this form or if you just put it on pen and paper. These are the questions that you need to answer about your product, your idea. If you have answers to all of these questions, you're good to go. Now it's time for personal tips and tricks, also keeping my attention on the timing. Now, first, team is one of the key parts of your startup. First of all, investors, they invest in people, not products. There are a lot of cases when a team that was amazing, they pitched a product that was bad, but investors said, okay, you know what, let's build something else together and I will give you money for it because I can see that you're an amazing team, that you're balanced, you have tech, marketing, sales, and I see that you're like working together very nicely. That's what investors want to see. But also, if you are really aiming to build a long-term startup, you will spend a lot of your time with these people. And of course, you're going to have discussions. You are going to argue a lot, and that is inevitable, and that is okay. But you want to do it with people who you like, right? So before even if you go to a networking event and you see someone who looks nice, and that could be your co-founder, don't jump into it on the second week. Get to know this person a bit more. Because team is really, it is the most important thing. I am very grateful for having some of the best teams for my startups and in startups that I worked at, because you're going to hear a lot of no's, you're going to have a lot of challenges. And if you have a team that doesn't support you and that doesn't believe in the product, it's not going to work. Number 2, I want you to invest time in your personal founder brand, online and offline. Very important. I will share a book that talks about it in the next slide. But what I mean, open your accounts on Twitter and LinkedIn. These two, most important for entrepreneurs, especially outside Azerbaijan, if you're building a global product. And you don't need to write posts every day. That's not what I mean. I mean that you need to have a proper personal brand. Make it look good. A lot of investors, European investors, American investors sit on LinkedIn and they can just Google the name of your startup, Google your name. And if they see a profile with no profile picture, no cover page, some random experience, yeah, that tells a lot. So you can use my social networks as one of the examples. Of course, they're not perfect, not at all, but I'm really trying and working on them. And I took a lot of paid courses and paid consultations. So some of the things you can steal from me because I was working on it a lot. Number 3, of course, you want to ask for as much feedback as you can, but always take it with a pinch of salt. A lot of people told us that, okay, this is not going to work. Oh, you're like an all-female team. That's not going to work. Okay, just say thank you and move on. Sometimes the feedback will be, of course, it will make sense, but a lot of times it's just going to be rubbish and you cannot have it get into your head and ruin your motivation. Number 4, don't fall victim of hustle culture. That's a very American way of doing startups, is working 24/7 and hustle. And I love it, but I went through a burnout myself. I had some issues with my physical and mental health because of that. Don't do it. It's not worth it. I also don't believe in having a perfect work-life balance, but somewhere in the middle. It's okay to work a little bit during the evenings, work a little bit during the after your work days in the evening and during the weekend. It's okay, but don't make work the only thing that you do in your life. You're going to burn out, especially if you're young. Don't do it. Number 5, be mindful with finance. So don't quit unless financially stable. Don't invest a lot of money when you don't need that. For example, you don't need to invest in marketing and graphic design, in all of this stuff at the very beginning. And be risk averse in this time of economy also. I'm pretty sure financial crisis is slowly coming. So let's not do any risky decisions. And number 6, of course, there are certain trends in the market. Of course, a lot of people right now are doing something with like NFTs, even, for example. A lot of people are doing some online courses. It's not fashionable, for example, to do something food related, I think, now in 2022, at least in Europe. But okay, you can follow the trends a little bit, but if you don't have passion in this industry, in this field, you're going to burn out. Because once again, you're going to hear a lot of no's. Be grateful for those. Every no is just the next step. It's cool, but the only thing that can get you through these challenges and through these no's is the true passion about your product. So the mobile app, it was a charity thing, and I really wanted to do some social good. So whenever I heard no, I just said, well, okay, you know, this will be a story that I will share in 10 years when I'm doing a Forbes interview. Say that to yourself, that every challenge is just a story that I will later share. But if you don't have this passion for this industry, you're going to quit. For example, I could never ever build anything in hard, like deep tech, or to be honest, in climate change, because of course I care about it, but that's not my passion. My passion is education. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, this is another screenshot alert. So these are just the books that I really like and that I recommend you for education and inspiration. Lean Startup, we know. Startup Owner's Manual. You don't read that from first page to the last page. This is the book that you buy or that you download for free on the internet, like I do, in PDF format, and you only open it when you need to look for a specific thing. Founder Brand, amazing book on how to do your personal brand on LinkedIn and Twitter and all other forms of social media. Start with why. So that's what I'm talking about. Why are you doing this startup? How to find your passion. 0 to 1, really good also story. That's actually co-founder of Elon Musk for their first startup. Very inspirational. I love this guy, Richard Branson. All of his books are very inspirational because he's just sort of a regular guy who didn't come up with innovative idea, but he made a product that everyone likes. Hooked is for building habit-forming products, so sort of like TikTok. Creativity Inc. is about a Pixar, I think, and this book is also about Pixar. Both of them just very inspirational, well-written. Girl Boss, like it, of course, because it's about a woman entrepreneur. $100 startup, also very interesting real story read. And Bad Blood, that's an example on how not to do. That's a very famous Silicon Valley startup where woman founder was actually a fraud who stole like a lot of money onto a product that didn't work, but it's an interesting read. All right, so I think at this point, it's a pretty good timing, and please ask any questions that you have. Otherwise, I'm also putting links for my LinkedIn and Instagram here. Feel free to connect, to ask questions later if you have, to send me your idea to review. I'm always open to anything like that. So just connect with me, send me a DM or LinkedIn message with your idea, and I will give you tips and a review. Yes. I think we have a raised hand, yeah?
Yes, Seljan.
Yes.
You can ask your question.
Can you hear me or?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, hello, and thank you for the presentation. It's pretty good. And I want to ask about the marketing. How do you think, what's the best way for going marketing for the startup?
It would, of course, depend on your product. So who is the main target? If there are two types of product that you build, the first one, B2B, it's for businesses. And the second one, B2C, it's for people. You want to answer, I think.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I have a startup and it's related to the customers, they found the course which they want. It's like a filter. And actually also we have to, communicate with the other courses which have online courses. So that's why it's a little bit difficult for connect with them. Do you have an opinion about them? How can we contact with the companies which buy, for example, online course?
Well, first of all, if we're talking about marketing for people, I would really love to say TikTok, but I found out that TikTok got blocked in Azerbaijan. This is very sad. So Instagram works well, amazing in Azerbaijan with customers. I run some ads, work beautifully. Later, when TikTok gets unblocked, TikTok. But for businesses, LinkedIn. So that's why if you have a good representation on LinkedIn, you can search for our local companies, like big ones like Pasha Holding. They all have their marketing representatives with a nice and active presence on LinkedIn. And you just simply add them. Do not add anything in the note. Just send them a connect request. And when they accept, just send them a message. Do not send them a long message with like the history of your project and also a pitch deck attached. Just a short message that talks about your product, and maybe, Pasha Holding, for example, would be interested.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Seljan. Actually, Səbinə, Seljan is 14 years old, our member. So they had a team with all 14, 15 years old girls, and they have the startup. and they were participating in ABB Hackathon Challenge, and they took some place, as far as I remember. So they're so active.
Amazing.
Yes.
I mean, look online for startup grants for young girls. I guarantee you're going to pass it, because first of all American and European grants, they love Azerbaijani applications because unfortunately we're exotic to them, but they always invest money because they need to have this representation. They see young woman from Azerbaijan, a bingo, that's a startup grant that you have. Even if that's a small grant, you can still use it for marketing. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will
Thank you.
ask some questions to you, Səbinə. So here is the question from one our member. What are the 3 most important habits to be a successful entrepreneur? Or that all entrepreneurs have to have it or develop during their career path?
Mm-hmm. Well, I will not say wake up at 5 a.m. because I still cannot do it myself, but I don't think you must have it. But what I will say, sleep, get some sleep, but yeah, you don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. to meditate and have a workout. I don't think so. But time management, that is very important, especially if you study and at the same time you build something. You don't want it to affect your grades, for example. Of course, I don't think that you need to have all 5s, right? You can have some 4s, it's okay, but you have to have balance. Number 2, yeah, I would say have a thick skin. Even if you have some feedback that's negative, don't let it come to you. Someone will say, oh, she's so young, what does she know? Yeah. These people are not useful for you, and people who really care about you will just give you advice without these comments. And third thing, education. I think a founder never stops learning, really. Like, I read a lot, not because I need to tick a box that I read 30 books this year, but because I genuinely love learning new things. And you have to have this habit of learning new things every day or every week. So I would say these 3.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how can we protect the idea so others don't steal it?
The short answer is you cannot do that. I have explored this a lot with the patent. Unless you are in a Suits TV show, patents, they don't really change anything. I think the patent application in Azerbaijan is extremely long and very bureaucratic. It's not going to change anything, but happy to let you know it's the same thing in Europe. You cannot really sue anyone over that. What you can do, be mindful of sharing how you're going to make idea happen. For example, you will pitch your idea that you're building, for example, this educational platform. But don't say, okay, we're building this platform on this website with these tools, and we have a team that has this and this and this, unless you talk to an investor, of course, because then people might get some ideas and use it. But the best tip is to really just make it first, because you can have 10 people can have the same idea, but only the one who actually executes it will be the winner. So don't really worry about that. If people want to steal your idea, they will, and you cannot really do anything about it. All you can do is to build a strong personal brand such that people and companies, they want to buy from you and not from them, and try to make it faster, to build it faster.
I think it's also the quality is important. So if you're doing it, you will do with high quality. So people that will repeat you will not do with the same quality because it's the idea is not coming from beginning from their side.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you touched this point during your presentation. So building a team is always hard, especially from the beginning. So sometimes it's very hard to find the people that can believe in you and follow you when you don't have any money, you just started your startup. So what are the tips for building a great team?
So first of all, of course, is to get as much networking as you can. For example, the best way, of course, would be to join perhaps a co-working center or to join an acceleration center. Some acceleration centers can accept you even if you just have an idea, and then they help you find your teammates. So they help you with matching. Look for different hackathons and events like that, because at hackathons, you can also build a team around an idea. For me, I got a little bit lucky because a majority of the teams that I work at were my friends. Of course, it comes with its own pros and cons working with friends, but it somehow worked. If you're a student, I'm pretty sure that you already have in your mind someone from your class, for example, that could be useful. So you could just approach them and, try and ask them about it. Yeah, but networking would be the best. I don't think in Azerbaijan we have a dedicated platform for finding teammates. If there is such a tool, that would be, of course, brilliant.
Yeah, I think it will be maybe a next startup idea from today, because I think everyone is just looking for teammates through LinkedIn currently, because LinkedIn is getting so popular in Azerbaijan. So I would like to ask anyone if they have any questions, because I don't see any other questions. Okay, if there's no question, so we are coming to the end to our presentation today. Thank you, dear Səbinə, for accepting and our invitation and participating today and giving so useful information to our participants. And I would like just to mention our participants and audience that if you will want to be aware about our events further, you can follow our Instagram profile, on LinkedIn also, or join the Telegram channel. So you will aware about all our future events. And also you can join to our offline events, which will take place on 29th of October and also 30th of October, which is especially for the students and schoolgirls. That's all. We are finishing today's session.
Do you think I can answer the last question that's now popped up in the chat?
Yeah, sure.
So in the pitching presentation, should we mention about last investments or not? I say yes. You don't have to put exactly who that was and what amount of money that was. You can just put roughly, but it's always good to see for investors, because this is a psychological trick. If people see that someone else invested in your product, they will think, well, maybe I should listen again and have a second look. Maybe I'm missing out on a huge opportunity. So I say yes, always mention it. And that was the last answer. And if anyone has any other questions, feel free to ask on LinkedIn or Instagram.
Okay, thank you, Nushaba, for your question, and everyone. And I'm wishing all of you a good evening. And I'm just wrapping up today's session. See you on our next events. Thank you, Səbinə.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye all.
Bye.